So this is not completely a supercar or vintage supercar related story, but at the Miami Concours a few weeks ago, a gentleman came up to me and sort of really inspired me, and he said that he had come down to Florida from Idaho, and he said that a lot of our videos and sort of my story and the company's story inspired him. And he was homeless at one point, he was struggling, and he ended up starting a shipping company, and now he's doing really well for himself, and I think he just bought his first Ferrari. So I really love to hear that, and I will have to tell you guys, I think it's one of the main inspirations for me now to be doing YouTube and things like that, is to be teaching people, sharing our passions, sharing our knowledge. So there's a story that I wanted to share with you guys that really impacted Jordy and myself, and I think everybody involved with the situation. And if you've known me for a long time, you know that you have a personal relationship with me. You know I am always embracing all of my disasters, failures, fiascos, and this is a really important in my life moment in my life, because it was a pivotal moment in my life. And I think it's really important to tell you guys the story to young people, any age, that are maybe growing a business, growing a career, and building their legacy. So if you watch one of our older videos on the Ferrari Cavallino show, you know a little bit about my, I would say, hesitation of going back to Palm Beach. And one of the reasons why, and we've talked a little bit about this, when I first started my professional career, I was hosting these car events. We talked about the Donald Trump car event that sort of kicked that career off. And at a very young age, between 19 and 23 years old, I was hosting an event called Supercar Weekend in Palm Beach. The Palm Beach Supercar Weekend was one of the largest supercar shows in the region in that period. We used to have 20, 30, 40,000 people attend the event. Supercars from all over the world, and this was in a period when people weren't really doing these shows. I mean, now you have Cars and Coffee, you have all these things, and imagine at that period we had McLaren F1s, F50s, all these crazy cars from around the world and around the country, and at even some points we had world debuts of cars. I could tell you numerous times where the show was the first time we had shown a car, and one of the brands that we had worked with was actually Spiker. They were a huge supporter of everything we did at that time, and we actually were organizing all these great events. And one of the surrounding events, we would always do these VIP parties and things like that. And I was a young guy, so I was definitely, I would say, I try every day now to be very humble. So that's an important part of this story, because this period of my life, I don't believe I was humble. I was probably a little arrogant. I was probably a little cocky. And I was very optimistic, though. I believed that anything was possible, and I still believe that today. But again, the point of this story, you'll see, so I was a little hot-headed. I thought my shit didn't stink, excuse my language, and felt like I was on top of the world. And I had partnered with another gentleman who was older than me. I looked at him as an older brother. And unfortunately, he was definitely probably one of the worst business partners anyone could have. If you guys have watched The Tinder Swindler or any of those shows about con artists, he's definitely got a lot of the traits. But through greed and sort of my lack of humility, I believed a lot of things, and I was looking, towards sort of glamour and this, nightclub life and all these different things. So, make a long story short, we had all these grand ideas for this car show. We had these crazy VIP bathrooms. We had these crazy parties at Polo, and we were just dumping money into this event. And unfortunately, my business partner at the time, I was not a rich guy. I started with nothing doing these car shows. I wasn't talking to my family at the time. So I was out on my own, had told me that he was going to be investing money. He was going to be investing money. And instead of investing money, we were raising sponsorship dollars, and that money was just being spent, and spent at a very quick pace, just because we were not managing anything, and specifically myself, we were not managing everything, understanding that there was a budget. It was always this concept that these millions of dollars would come in, They never came in, and we ended up basically being financially destroyed at one point. So in 2008, we were hosting, during this time, we were hosting one of our VIP parties. It was a Spiker, actually a Spiker fashion show at a hotel called Hotel Biba. And that weekend, we had, VIP parties, we had our big car show, we had all these things going on, and literally, we were running out of money. And my business partner kept saying, don't worry, money's gonna come, we're gonna figure this out. And we were trying to scrape money together from sponsors and do all these things. But again, I wanna stress that I was not being financially responsible. I was just literally burning money, and we were thought, we could do this or do that. And this was a moment when all of the checks that I was writing started to bounce. We didn't have the money. I was trying to raise sponsorship dollars. I was trying to fix things. A check would bounce. We'd end up covering it. Another check would bounce. We'd end up covering it. And slowly we'd try to pay for things. But again, my optimism, my belief in my business partner, it definitely led me in the wrong way. Now, I want to preface that I really look at this moment as something that has influenced me today. So I don't want you guys to feel bad for me or anything for what I'm about to tell you the next story. So in that process, I'm just trying to pay things off. I realize this business partner is probably not a great guy, and I'm trying to figure my life out. And I was, because of this car show, we were on the cover of magazines and all these things. I was actually asked to be a celebrity bartender at it was called Beach A famous Italian restaurant in Palm Beach. And I was a celebrity bartender with one of Nat King Cole's daughters, I believe, Julian Hooker, a former NFL player, and a few other local celebrities at the time. It was a charity event. And I'll never forget, I was driving a 996 Turbo that I was leasing. And it was sitting, I believe it was out front of the restaurant, and I see all of a sudden 2 cops walk into the restaurant. And my immediate reaction, because I was a cocky little kid, was, oh my God, somebody must have hit my car. What happened? And the 2 cops walk up to the bar and they're like, are you John Tamari? And I'm like, yeah, what happened to my car? They go, sir, you're under arrest. So in front of everyone, the who's who of Palm Beach, I was put in cuffs. I was in a suit at the time, so I had to take my jacket off, and I was put in cuffs, and I was in the back of a cop car. Now, at this moment, I had been trying to cover all these bills, but in that process, because we were in so much debt, my condo was in foreclosure, my car was probably out on a repo list, and I literally could not rub 2 nickels together. And I was sitting in this back of the cop car, and I literally started just laughing. And I couldn't, at the time, it sounds sort of weird, and even the cop was like super angry. He's like, why are you laughing? And I just said to myself, okay, this is pretty much as bad as it could get. Like, it can't get this much worse. All of this ups and downs of, success at a young age and this car show and this Donald Trump thing, and then all of these stresses of these financial issues, this is pretty much as bad as it gets. Getting arrested in front of everyone in your town that you're, local celebrity at, financial ruin, all these things, realizing I had a really terrible business partner. And that was a super important moment. And really impactful for me because it really humbled me, and the universe really humbled me to realize that everything like these society events and things like that, even wearing suits and stuff. I don't know if you guys see the way I dress now. It's jeans and a t-shirt. I don't really care. And it used to matter to me so much. Now I do exactly what I like, what I love, etc. So I ended up going to jail. I was later bailed out by my dad and a very good friend of his, which was incredible. I did not hear from my business partner at that time. And I realized that I was actually arrested because my business partner said that he couldn't be on any of the corporate documents. I didn't know anything about an LLC, and technically I was writing the checks out of my personal name, and I was responsible for those things. So that's why I was arrested. It was an $8,000 check. And, in the sort of confusion of everything, I didn't even realize, but by the time I was out of jail, the story was on the cover of the Palm Beach Post. It was on the front page. It was on the front page of the Palm Beach Daily News, my booking blotter photo. This story actually made a joke, which made me feel a little bit better about the situation, about being an Orlando Bloom lookalike and a party promoter. But it was very embarrassing. I immediately saw all of my fake friends and even friends sort of turn their back on me. And sort of I became like the black sheep of this community. And I think this is a really important part because it humbled me to sort of rebuild my life and sort of go through a transformation of where I am today. You know, I am always trying to keep my ego in check, and I think it's super, super important, especially if you're a young entrepreneur, keep your ego in check. I can't express that you always want to learn, you always want to listen. Some of the smartest guys I know that are in their 60s, they're always learning and listening. So I expressed that. I didn't listen to anyone. I didn't learn from anyone. I wanted to just learn things on my own, and I thought I knew best out of everybody. I ended up rebounding. I ended up, you know, turning this into a better situation. And obviously, you guys know where we are today. But what is, I would say, the biggest thing that I wanted to sort of share with you guys today was the consequence that small period in my life made on the rest of my life. So after that, anytime I went to go get any loan or credit card, I couldn't. I was denied. I don't think up until probably about 2 years ago, I didn't have a credit card. Up about 3 years ago, I couldn't even get any sort of loan. You know, when someone normal goes out to get a cell phone or an electric bill, they have to, you know, you think you walk into a cell phone store, you use your credit, you get a cell phone. I couldn't do that. I would have to put like $1,000 deposit to get a new cell phone line or anything like that. So this is something that had followed me my entire life, even as I became successful again through Lullavi, even as I became successful and financially stable with Curated. This is something that followed me, culminating into a really scary moment for me. At one point, when we first got our dealer's license, the DMV did not want to approve our dealer's license, even though this was now off my records. It was expunged. I actually ended up working something out, and it's technically off of my record, even though everyone knows about it. But when we were applying for our current bank loan, which is an incredible floor plan that we have with an incredible bank, we were actually at one point in the process of being denied because of my arrest. And this is something that happened almost 15, 16 years ago, and it has impacted me. And if it wasn't for my business partners today, we'd probably not have this floor plan, where we have at any given point $20 to $25 million of cars. And I think it's really important for me guys to share, for me to share that story with you, because I embrace my failures. I embrace what happened to me. You know, having $10 in my bank account, being screwed, you know, by business partners. But I embrace it as looking as I went through the best college. And I hope that you guys don't have to go through that, any young entrepreneurs, and I hope that you can learn from more successful people and people that are older than you. Unfortunately, at the time, I didn't want to learn from anyone. I didn't want to listen to anyone. And those consequences followed me for years and years and years. And I think I can't express enough that if I'm a young entrepreneur, or if I had to do it again, which I wouldn't, I have no regrets, I will say, I'd really try to be as humble as possible, and I'd really try to take things slow. We have an incredible young team here that works with Curated, and these guys are so passionate, and these guys are all hungry, and they're all working hard. And I always tell them, man, take your time. Where you're at 23 and 24, I wish I was there. You know, I see, you know, these young guys that are starting to build a savings and all these things. I didn't have that, and I wasn't thinking that way. I was just shooting for the stars all the time, not worried about any risks. But there are risks. So I sort of really wanted to share that. It's an important part of Curated's history, my story, and hopefully it can inspire a younger generation of entrepreneurs. What we do here and what we believe here, you know, I believe a Countach and a Diablo, it's the ultimate symbol of aspiration. I believe there's a young generation that, especially in the US, of aspirational young entrepreneurs. And I think the one thing I hope I can share with you guys is to remain humble, stay humble, definitely work hard, which has never been an issue for me. I've never been afraid of that. But most importantly, you got to learn and listen, and think about the consequences. You know, a small mistake or something like that could greater affect your life for many, many years.